Hey there! So Canada, the country famous for maple syrup, politeness, and being one of the best places to live, is now facing something no one expected: an economic disaster. Yep, housing is insane. Wages are frozen in time, and even immigrants who once dreamed of a better life here, some of them are packing up and leaving. So, what happened? How did one of the world's most promising countries get into this much trouble? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Because on the surface, Canada still looks great. But dig a little deeper, and the cracks start to show. Big time. We'll break down the 5 biggest reasons Canada's economy is unraveling, and why this same crisis is already creeping into other countries. Let's jump in. Section 1. 5 reasons Canada is failing. Let's start with the big one: housing. Canadian home prices have exploded by over 300% in the last 2 decades. Meanwhile, wages barely moved. Just a 30% increase. That means a house that cost $200,000 in the early 2000s now goes for over $800,000. But people are still getting paid like it's 2005. Big investment firms and real estate corporations scooped up thousands of homes, treating them like assets, not shelter. Some got turned into rentals. Others were just left empty. And when interest rates shot up recently, people with variable rate mortgages suddenly saw their monthly payments double. It's pushing families to sell, cut essentials, or drown in debt. And that's just the start. Next up, immigration. Canada brought in over 2.5 million immigrants between 2018 and 2023. That's the fastest population growth rate among developed countries. Now, immigration isn't the problem. It can help economies. But here's the issue. Canada didn't prepare. Not enough homes. Not enough doctors. Over 6 million Canadians don't have a family doctor. Classrooms are packed. Transit systems are overloaded. And with more workers available, wages stay low. Why pay more when someone else will take the job for less? Third problem: weak business growth. While the US built tech giants like Google and Apple, Canada kept leaning into real estate. Manufacturing shrank hard. Car production dropped from 3 million units a year in the late 90s to under 1.5 million today, and the brain drain is real. Skilled Canadians and immigrants, doctors, engineers, tech workers, are heading south to the US, where the pay is way better for the same job. Can you blame them? Now let's talk about debt. This is scary. The average Canadian household owes $1.80 for every dollar it earns. That's worse than the US right before the 2008 crash. And it's not just individuals. The government itself is spending more than it collects in taxes. National debt is piling up. So if another crisis hits, there's not much of a safety net left. And finally, poor government decisions. One administration after another kept doubling down on the short-term stuff. More housing, more immigration, without fixing the core problems. They didn't build enough infrastructure. They didn't support key industries. And they kept raising taxes, like the carbon tax, which just makes everything, from gas to groceries, more expensive. Red tape is choking businesses, pushing some to just leave the country entirely. These aren't just mistakes. They're long-term failures. Section 2. Who's next? Here's the bad news. Canada's not alone. Other countries are starting to show the same symptoms. Let's take a quick look. Australia's basically Canada with kangaroos. Sydney and Melbourne are dealing with the same housing nightmare. Prices are insane. Immigration is fast. And the economy is also leaning too hard on real estate instead of building lasting industries. Locals are starting to push back. The UK also in trouble, especially London, where rent is ridiculous, wages are flat, and living costs just keep climbing. Post-Brexit, the UK lost a lot of its business connections, and now young people feel completely locked out of home ownership. And in the US, states like California, New York, and Florida are already showing Canadian-level warning signs. In California and New York, housing costs have driven people out. In Florida, investors are buying up so many homes that regular families can't compete. Add the crushing student loan debt, and it's no wonder young Americans are stuck. What's the common thread? Too much focus on real estate, not enough support for industry, immigration without infrastructure, and politicians who kick the can down the road until the road falls apart. Canada is a warning sign, and others are catching up fast. So here's what we learned today. Canada's economy is being crushed by 5 big problems: an out-of-control housing market, too much immigration too fast, weak business growth, sky-high debt, and a string of bad government decisions. And here's the scary part. Countries like Australia, the UK, and even parts of the US are headed in the same direction. The good news? There's still time. Canada can fix this. But it's going to take real change, not just campaign slogans. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think Canada will make the tough choices? Should we make a video about Australia next? Let us know in the comments, and if you learned something today, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.